Que las palabras de mi boca y la meditación de mi corazón sean siempre aceptables en tus ojos, oh Señor, mi fortaleza y mi redentor. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Well, today we honor St. Francis of Assisi. And St. Francis Day is also always should be viewed in a very multifaceted kind of way. The thing that is clearly, what we have fun doing is, of course, blessing the animals. But there are other aspects of his example to us in our faith journeys. The other aspect of example is his love for creation. He was very fond of, making references to the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, whales, all of those things that we heard about in his canticle. The third aspect that we can learn from when we look at the life of St. Francis is, and this is maybe, the more challenging part, is how he focused on poverty, on ministering to the poor, and how he felt it was important to become poor himself. Poor in the sense that he gave up his worldly possessions. So poverty is one of those issues that is different to different people. Different people experience it in different ways. And so there was this father who wanted to make sure that his son understood that there were poor people in the world. They were very blessed. They were lucky. They had wealth. And so in order to teach his son a lesson, he decided that he would go and spend with his son a day and a half on the farm of a very poor family. And so they did a day and a half, wandering around and spending time with this family. And so at the end of the trip, on their way back home, the father said to the son, well, what did you think of our trip to the farm? And he said, oh, it was very good, Dad. Well, did you see how it is that there are poor people in the world? And the son said, oh, yeah. And so the father says, oh, well, tell me, what did you learn? And the son said, well, we have one dog, but they have 4 dogs. And we have a pool that reaches to the middle of the garden, but they have a creek that has no end. And we have electric lamps in our garden, but they have a sky full of stars. Our patio goes all the way around our property, but they have acres and acres on which to play. So thanks, Dad, for showing me how poor we really are. We can learn lessons from many, many people in many different sources. The little boy saw what the father could not. He saw the value of the farm, and that the people who lived on the farm maybe were not as poor as the father thought, because the son was able to see how beautiful and how lovely their life was. So poverty is in the eye of the beholder, and you never know where your lessons for blessings will come from. St. Francis, I don't know how many of you know, but our fountain in the courtyard, the statue on the fountain is a statue of St. Francis of Assisi. He's a very popular saint. Just about every Episcopal church I've ever been to has a statue of St. Francis, whether or not they're called St. Francis. The church, like we're called St. Paul's, but we've got a statue of St. Francis. You can go to just about any church, Episcopal church anyway, and you will see some kind of tribute to St. Francis because he's so popular. And again, different people have adopted different aspects of St. Francis to kind of sort of carry their cause. Environmentalists are very fond of St. Francis as his love for creation shows. And then, of course, people who are working in the fields of justice and who work with people in poverty also see Francis as a champion for them. But today, our focus is on how it is that Francis had given such love for the creatures. And this stems from, he would sit in the fields and talk to the animals. And there was this one incident where he was actually able to tame a wolf. And so from that legend grew his reputation for being able to be friends with animals. And it's always a joy to invite God's creatures into God's house. We are blessed that we have a saint that also believes that and gives us an excuse to welcome them into the house. It's risky. You never know, but we've been doing this several years now, and it's mostly been a very good experience. And I think today will be no exception. I think it'll be just fine. But the thing is that our pets can teach us a lot. So they're not, and those of you who own pets, I know can regale us with countless stories of, how your pets maybe sensed, you were troubled or something, or, came and reached out to you, or, I had a pair of Irish setters that were extraordinarily intelligent. We had a giant pen for them because they're pretty tall dogs. We had a giant pen for them in the back of the house, and we'd leave for work and then come back, and of course the dogs would be there. A neighbor came over to tell us one time, your dogs are very smart. And we said, yeah, they are very smart. He goes, no, you don't know how smart they are. And I said, what do you mean? Well, your dogs, when you leave, they climb over the fence and leave. And before you come home, they climb back in. I don't know how they could tell time, but that's what the neighbor taught us. The thing is that God can function, and we can learn from a variety of sources. Now, the thing about St. Francis, though, that I don't want us to lose sight of, in spite of, all of these wonderful aspects of him, is what actually motivated St. Francis. What was it that St. Francis used to guide his path? Well, it was his complete adoration of Jesus Christ. He was attractive to people because that's how well he modeled Jesus Christ. And that's what I hope that we learn most from on St. Francis Day, is that we are called by his own example to follow Jesus Christ. But there are special things that we can learn from our pets, from the way that animals live in our lives. There was a little boy who couldn't have been more than 5 years old, but he looked like he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Just days earlier, he and his baby sister had been in a daycare center when it was destroyed in the Oklahoma City bombing. And now his sister was missing, and he had stopped speaking and hadn't even cried. City officials had set up a compassion center in the First Christian Church, and they stuffed it with volunteer therapists and child psychologists who counsel survivors and families of the missing. Several psychologists had tried coaxing the boy to talk about his feelings with no success. Then a dog named Daisy arrived on the scene and began just working wonders. And this dog was part Corgi and part white Sheltie. Daisy was a licensed volunteer therapy dog, and a designation that is given to animals who complete a series of special obedience courses, and they pass a test of one of the 35 chapters of Therapy Dogs International. So the boy looked at Daisy, inched closer, and tentatively petted her. I had a dog, he whispers. And those were his first words since the tragedy. Then he scooped up Daisy in his arms and hugged her before finally giving in to racking sobs. A counselor watched and felt a sense of relief because, she said, now he'll be able to grieve and the healing can commence. Brenda Myers, the dog's owner and trainer, couldn't explain exactly how Daisy managed to help the boy. There were over a dozen children at the Compassion Center, and some had lost one or both parents, others siblings or friends, and now they were dazed and numb. Hoping to cheer up the children, other pet owners started bringing their animals to the church. Drug and alcohol counselor Charlotte Campbell arrived with her 9-month-old pet spider monkey named Charlie. And breeders John and Vicki McEwen came with 8 of their rabbits. Now, Campbell knew her pet monkey had a gift for pulling people out of depression. Charlie had once worked with a group of troubled teens that she was counseling. But still, even she was surprised at the dramatic change in the mood when Charlie scampered into the children's corner. The kids weren't even talking, she relayed. And they say, Charlie, when they saw Charlie, one girl let out a squeal and started jumping up and down. And suddenly the other children came alive too. Charlie hugged each child individually, and pretty soon they were all giggling. After Daisy and Charlie appeared, according to Dusty Bowenkamp, a coordinator for the American Red Cross, the counselors could begin to help the kids open up about their feelings and their losses. Myers saw that when the children were too nervous to nap, Daisy would sense this and would go and lie down with them. And as the dog's eyes would get heavier, so would the children. But it wasn't just the children who took comfort from the animals. A woman whose husband had been killed asked if she could hold one of the rabbits. She walked around hugging the animal. I just needed something, she said. They remember that Charlie went over to an elderly woman who was crying and stroked her cheek and then put his arms around her. Oklahoma City residents still talk about the special healing the animals provided. You can't imagine how gratifying it was to hear all about the difference Daisy made, said her owner. One mother told me, my son was in the dark, and Daisy was a passage back into the light. Recently, I saw a story about a dog who saved a child from being abused. The parents of the child had hired a nanny, and they began to notice that whenever the nanny was around, the dog would growl and get very protective of the child. And after seeing this several times, the parents decided to install a hidden camera. And what they thought they were going to see was the nanny abusing the dog. But what they saw was the nanny shaking and striking the child while the dog growled in protest. So because of the dog's warning, the parents were called to take some action to find out what was going on, and so the nanny was eventually arrested. As you might imagine, they were very grateful for their dog. Our pets have a special place in our lives. They give so much to us, and we in turn, I know from my experience of you all, if a pet dies or if a pet runs away or, if there's some loss of our pets, it is very, very difficult for us to bear because they actually do become a member of the family. I have a friend who's a priest, and on Facebook, she's been posting about the death of one of her dogs. He got very, very sick, and so every day that she had with him, she would post something about him until it was time for her to let him go, and she had to put him down. And so she was saying that, of course, today was going to be the blessing of the animals, and how hard it was going to be for her because she loved that dog so much. God's blessings are with us. And sometimes the blessings come in the shape of our four-legged friends, our cats, our squirrels. There are so many different kinds of pets. God speaks through a variety of ways. And sometimes it's our pets. Sometimes it's an unexpected person. Sometimes it's a child who is able to see real poverty is not about what material things we have, but it's about how we see things. What St. Francis reminds us is that we have blessings all around us, and sometimes the blessings come in the form of God's creatures, both great and small. Amen.